Dearest, beloved, divine friends and family, me, your friend, your brother Haji, Dr. Roshan Khan, in the raw. RKU's Guyana Free Media, bringing to you information and update in pre- and post-election 2020, and also important things that affect health, our environment, and newsworthy life, safety, security, development, growth of Guyana. But we are still in this election and post-election mode following declaration and governance. Right now, I was impressed by this article in Sunday, August 9, 2020 of the Kaicho News by Sir Ronald Sanders, the ambassador of Antigua to the Organization of American States, and he was knighted by the Queen of England, or the United Kingdom, and that is why he carries the title Sir Ronald Sanders. And I'm going to read you his article, make necessary pertinent commentaries if necessary. One upside of the challenges facing the government of Guyana after a 5-month impasse in declaring the result of the general elections in March 2nd, that the country's economic growth in 2020 is projected at a whopping 52.8%, ladies and gentlemen. Can we understand what is an economic growth of 52.8% above what is it that we normally have in the entire Guyana annually, surpassing all 26 Latin American and Caribbean states? This trend is likely to continue for many years to come. And this is why, with good management by no other than His Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali, Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, and Prime Minister Mark Phillips, Anil Nandalal, the Attorney General, and all the entire magnificent team of ministers, parliamentarians, and peoples in government and administration, will take us to the high road, the very high road of success. Guyana has become a hotbed for now for the new oil and gas production. Since 2015, there has been 19 oil discoveries. We must remember, first understand the impact of this, ladies and gentlemen. In Trinidad, they have over 115 or 125 oil wells, and they produce about 100,000 barrels per day. One of a well is already producing almost 100,000 barrels per day and will exceed that. It is estimated that in a few years' time, we will be producing about 1 million barrels per day in a few years. And with the Payara project, even more. And there are more to be found. Guyana is floating on sweet crude. Dearest, beloved, divine friends and family, brothers and sisters in Guyana, the diaspora, and around the world in the raw. RKU's Guyana Free Media. "19 oil discoveries resulting in estimated recoverable petroleum resources of more than 8 billion barrels between December 2019 and June 2020. This newly found wealth in oil and gas provided the government $95 million in royalties paid by ExxonMobil from its first 2 oil sales, ladies and gentlemen. $95 million in royalties. And that's only a small part of what we are entitled to. We are entitled to 3 times that amount. So imagine what's going to happen to the development and the wealth and the growth of this magnificent country. Money could go a very long way to alleviate the circumstances of the Guyanese people who, since the 1980s, have been the second poorest in the Caribbean, Haitians being the poorest. I repeat, Haitians being the poorest. Per capita income in 2018 was $4,760, less than half the average for the Latin American and Caribbean region. That's how badly off we were, ladies and gentlemen. A 2014 World Bank survey identified not enough money as the most significant factor, limited financial inclusion in Guyana. It also said that low per capita income is only part of the problem. Skewed income distribution toward the wealthiest is also significant, and a lot of that by corruption. As we saw from 2015 to now, the exacerbation is deceit by the evil eyes of the government that actually helped to bring the government down. The evil eyes, basically one man in a small cabal that did this, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the article. Since the 1980s have been the second poorest in the Caribbean. And then we move on. A 2014 World Bank survey identified not enough money as a limited significant factor. And I finished with that already. We go on to the other article. Income levels should now increase, improving living standards for all. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to bear enough, not just paper money. You have to have paper money with value. Our exchange rate needs to drop drastically. Our exchange rate needs to go down to about 50 to 1, and then 20 to 1, and then 10 to 1, and then 6 to 1, like in Trinidad and Tobago, or like in Barbados, 2 to 1. Ladies and gentlemen, for us to have a high standard of living, giving us more paper money, and the cost of living exacerbated, is a total waste of time. And only give us people a paper money to make them feel nice, and it has no value. I'm no economist, but I'm a businessman with some sense. And we move on. But that depends on how well the oil revenues are managed and how equitably they are distributed in Guyana society, where race has been a more defining characteristic than class, according to Sir Ronald Sanders. But we know, within the new government in power, who are all set and placed to develop this country with support from the international community, we know what the evil eyes and his team were doing with the two-lettered business magnate and others to drench this money out for themselves and their gluttonous bodies and their bellies and their bank accounts around the world. We can imagine what would have happened with that money, ladies and gentlemen. Today, people of all ethnicities into the future, all races, all cultures, all class will develop with the international eyes on them. Back to the article. This will be the first challenge that Guyana new President Irfaan Ali and his government will face. Former President Barak Jagdeo, now a Vice President, has said that the new government will establish a petroleum commission to ensure the sector is not subjected to undue political interference, so they will have some independence. You cannot have men like evil eyes, even within their grouping, or turning into evil eyes who want to control the oil industry in the country. A petrol commission to ensure the sector is not subjected to political interference, and the emphasis is mine. This development would go some way to assuaging fears about the management of the oil and gas revenues. The government will also have to respond appropriately to demands by civil society groups, which are not always welcomed, for a better deal with the giant oil companies now engaged in exploration and production. And I agree, the private sector commission comprising the Chamber of Commerce and ordinary simple people like ourselves to have some opportunities for our workers and our staff as investors. This will include improved public information on the existing contracts, on any new arrangement that might be made. Remember, in 2015, the former government was keeping these things as top secret. They did not want us to know, friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, what is taking place, what is going on. And so they were keeping us in the dark. So this was change. And this will be changed by Dr. Irfan Ali, President, His Excellency. Early action on this matter could douse the flames of criticism that have been fanned particularly over the past 2 years. That's in the former government time. Managing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic is also a major and urgent challenge. At the time of writing, Guyana has confirmed 497 cases, of which 186 persons have recovered and 22 have died, unfortunately. However, the picture is not clear. The previous government, in my opinion, started doing a good job, but then they started to form the COVID-19 task force with the aim to suck the contributions and to pass it through political adherents and controllers in order to make personal good use of the money. And they eased up on trying to save the nation, but instead concentrating on power and technicality to hoodwink the world in the courts to steal elections. The 5-month impasse over declaring the result of the March 2nd Guyana elections coincided with the spread of the coronavirus. With no elected government in place, controlling the disease was less than adequate, and a huge spike was recorded in July. Ladies and gentlemen, it is nearly 700 right now. Since the writing of this article, the new government will have to get an early handle on the situation to prevent a backlash from a populace that has tolerated only because of their greater anxiety over the threats to their peace and security posed by the 5-month uncertainty over the elections period. The electoral machinery has repeatedly failed the Guyanese people, largely because members of the Elections Commission are appointed by leaders of political parties. The Commission, therefore, is preset for a standoff between the appointees of the opposing sides, which played out between March 2nd and August 12th this year. The way in which the Commission is appointed should be scrapped and replaced by a broad-based body representing various sectors in the society. The involvement of political parties could lead again to the 5-month tense and almost perilous situation that the country endured while it awaited a declaration of results of the March 2nd elections. The biggest challenge of all, however, will be the establishment of conditions that address the fundamental issue in Guyana of racial equity. Guyana's population of approximately 750,000 people consists of East Indian descent, 39.8%, African descendants, 29.3%, mixed race, 19.9%, indigenous Amerindians, 10.5%, and other races, 0.5%. The majority of population of African descent, who supported the previous government, formed the Partner for National Unity and the Alliance for Change, will view President Ali's government of the People's Progressive Party Civic as a party of the people of Indian descent, unless according to Ronald Sanders, let's pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, unless these racial suspicions, which have abounded since 1957, are allied by positive, and we go to page 48. To page 48, ladies and gentlemen, this is in the raw. RKU's Guyana Free Media. 43, 44, 46, 47, or 48. Action. Guyana will exist in a state of persistent unease. So they need action, positive action, ladies and gentlemen, to break that fear of the Afro-Guyanese, thinking there's an Indo-Guyanese government you had, even though they had a component called the AFC in the APNU, which comprised a large, supposedly Indian population. They did not manage to secure the confidence of the Indian vote in this country in the 2020 elections. Its governance will always be unstable until ethnic inclusion in decision-making and economic benefits are institutionalized. Past governments, dominated by one or other of two major racial groups, have failed to deal effectively with this issue. The new government of Irfan Ali has the real opportunity to tackle it seriously, and I would like to encourage Dr. Irfan Ali, President, and Dr. Bharat Jagde, Vice President, and Mr. Mark Phillips, Brigadier, and Anil Nandalal, and Robson Ben of the Ministry of Home Affairs, and Minister Hamilton of the Ministry of Labour, and all those others, professional, dynamic people who are concerned with Guyana, to work to tackle and overcome racial discrimination and suspicion in our country, ladies and gentlemen. To do so will call for constitutional change and institution building. And it must start with the policies of the new government integral, that these policies should be ethnic balance in the composition of government ministries, statutory bodies, and the security forces, especially their decision-making positions. And we must remember, Indo-Guyanese, and some people always complain, and Dr. Chetty Jagan since his time has tried to balance the security forces, but Indian people generally, by large groups, are not attracted to the military and the police in Guyana. Small percentage. So you can't blame whichever government is in power. Back to the article. Authority should not be regarded as residing in the hands of any one ethnic group at the expense of others. I completely concur with that, friends and families. Ways should be sought to institutionalize ethnic balance. Absolutely. We must have this in our country. Racism must end, including by enshrining it in the country's constitution, the fact that ethnic balance is necessary. Back to the article. That's my opinion. In his brief remarks on August 3rd, when he was sworn in as president, Ali told the Guyanese people, we are building a country for every Guyanese. I believe this man. I honestly believe this man. If I didn't believe anyone in the past, I believe His Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali. We are building a country for every Guyanese. There is no need for fear. There is no need for distinction based on political persuasion. Even the opposition people, their supporters will be given the opportunities to live with dignity. No need for distinction based on religious belief or ethnicity. Wonderful. My colleagues in the Ethnic Relations Commission will be happy to know this, and we believe that. I speak on my behalf, ladies and gentlemen, because I could get in trouble again for saying that. Some people are saying I'm speaking for the commission, or I speak of myself as a commissioner in the Ethnic Relations Commission. This is a government for all of Guyana, and that is the way this government will operate. Great. I love that. Making a reality of this pledge will be the new Guyana government's biggest task, but one which will bring even bigger benefits to Guyana if it is accomplished. Friends and family, this commentary in a shorter form was first written for the website of Sir Ronald Sanders, the Round Table, the Commonwealth Journal of Affairs, and whose international advisory board Sir Ronald Sanders is a member. The writer is Antigua and Barbuda ambassador to the US and the OAS. He is also a senior fellow in the Institute of Commonwealth Studies at the University of London and at Massey College in the University of Toronto. The views expressed are entirely his. Friends and family, your friend and your brother, me, Haji Rushin Khan, happy to present this to you on this In the Raw, RK's Guyana Free Media. Pause. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of RK's Guyana Free Media In the Raw, a second part to make use of the time slot we normally have for about 30 minutes to fill up this slot with a shorter message. And this is from President Irfan Ali. Government to limit political outreach. Government to limit political overreach in oil industry with Petroleum Commission President. Government to limit political outreach. That is, there must not be too much of political moves or control, but to have a special commission to administrate it. Right? President Irfan Ali yesterday touted plans of the People's Progressive Party civic government for the establishment of a petroleum commission during the future address of his inauguration, and I repeat, during the future address of his inauguration. And remember, this is in the raw, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the tongue will get tired and we have to repeat a piece, or we make a little human error. BBC General Secretary Bharat Jagdeo has been a staunch advocate for such a commission during his time as leader of the opposition. We are conscious that the proceeds of this bounty must be managed in a transparent way that will assure the people of Guyana that they will be the beneficiaries in a fair and equitable manner, the President said. Technically, what the President is saying, ladies and gentlemen, the government will not manage the industry. This is wonderful. It is not like what's happening where Trotman, politician, was managing the industry, and in which the President was forced to take it away because of certain circumstances. Pause. Sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen, friends and families. Mrs. Khan, my wife, just brought me a coffee. When you talk this much, sometimes you get tired. And so I'd say thank you to her. And so I was telling you this is why Trotman failed in the ministry. And if you recall his personality, when he signed the document and he came back from Texas, he was like a king walking and flying on air. Then the President found out what happened and he was removed from oil and gas from the Ministry of Natural Resources, and then the President took it over. But then we also remembered what happened with the $18 million, which we spoke about before, signing bonus, which disappeared and was hidden in the Bank of Guyana in some strange and fictitious names and some strange shenanigans. And then it was returned to Guyana, and then they were going to use it to hire lawyers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, people really think that we Guyanese are dumb people, right? So President Dr. Irfan Ali and his team mean business by establishing a commission to administrate the oil and gas, and they will have very little input into it. This is the beauty and the magnificent of the super brain and intellectual capacity of Dr. Irfan Ali in administration, and specializing in urban development and administration, and also Dr. former President Barajak Deo, and the giant of administration and management, Prime Minister Mark Phillips, and Anil Nandalal, the Attorney General, the Master in Law, to put these things together. And all the entire team, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what he is saying. Technically, they're going to have a commission. And this is a good thing. Otherwise, you'll see money is moving through, as we have seen in other countries, in certain countries in Africa and others, that the money were going to their son and they were buying cars and houses and yachts and planes and jets around the world, going to the benefit of the Guyanese people. I salute you, President Dr. Irfan Ali, Your Excellency. And back to the article. The commission is to be established, he assured, to ensure that the oil and gas sector is not subjected to undue political interference. The purpose of the Petroleum Commission is regulation. Similarly, how the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission oversee mining with very little political control. A draft Petroleum Commission bill made under the former Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change government had stated that the commission is needed to monitor and regulate the efficient, safe, effective, and environmental responsible exploration, development, and production of petroleum in Guyana. But ladies and gentlemen, we saw what they were doing. We were being taken for a ride. The specialist who's managing oil and gas in Guyana were hiring some of the most corrupt people to market our oil. We saw in the media, or it was alleged, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to know exactly what we are doing, but let's see what else the newspaper is saying. However, the draft bill was criticized in 2017, more notably by attorney at law and chartered accountant Christopher Ram. And ladies and gentlemen, when men like Christopher Ram speaks, the Auditor General also, when these people speak, we must listen. Let's go to the article. He had opined that the provisions in the draft demonstrated legal laziness, and that even more worrying were those seeking to grant extensive powers to the subject minister. See? They wanted to give more power to the subject minister, who was already caught in some strange situation in Texas and in the Caribbean with the wedding and other things and walking in here. In one regard, he had explained that under the draft, the minister would not only choose who he wants as directors, but also determine the resources at the disposal. The draft was giving that man, the minister, overall, overarching, overranging powers to choose who he wants as directors. You understand what I'm saying? And therefore that will be coming from higher ups within the party and government as well, ladies and gentlemen. Then you will see some of them owning private jets maybe under other people's name. Due to disclosure on the bill, it was sent to be adjusted by a special parliamentary committee. Until now, the draft bill continues to languish in Parliament. It had to, because there is obviously internecine conspiracies for vast manipulation of our resources. The BBC has said that the former government failed to adequately prepare the country's petroleum regulatory infrastructure and has committed to making necessary preparations swiftly and to get it done and sanctioned. Dearest beloved friends and family, pay attention, read and listen to the RKS Guyana Free Media. And if you're late, relook and check RKS Guyana Free Media in YouTube and in Facebook for over 150 episodes in post-elections coverage and commentaries by yours truly, me in the raw and in the edited version, your brother, your friend, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, saying thank you and farewell, friends.